Well, today at the State House, Robert Kennedy Jr. was speaking on behalf of parental choice when it comes to vaccinating children. Now, as we've heard with a lot of people who believe in vaccination choice, he started by saying his children are in fact vaccinated. His concern is about creating a mandate for all children to be vaccinated. And he points out that the main reason behind his crusade is because he says
CDC is a very troubled agency. It is, in fact, a cesspool of corruption.
Now, Robert Kennedy, he's the editor of a book called Parental, Let the Science Speak, and he's recently teamed up with the filmmaker Eric Gladen, who created the film Trace Amounts. And when I spoke with Eric, he said to me that we can't mandate these vaccines when the system is so corrupt. He mirrors that theme of the corruption within the CDC. Now, I wanted to know if Robert Kennedy was planning to meet with Governor Christie. I mean, there was a huge amount of backlash when Governor Christie was in the United Kingdom and spoke about parental choice when it comes to vaccines. So I had a moment to speak with him, and he said to me that
I was on a tight schedule, and we made the offer to Governor Christie, and I'd love to talk to him at some point.
So it seems like Governor Christie said, I'm not going to touch that, especially after the backlash he received the last time he addressed the issue.
I guess the question is, should you expand the medical exemptions, or should you, put the burden, place a higher burden on parents that want a medical or a religious exemption to get their kids vaccinated? Is he a kook, or is there some credibility to what he's talking about? I mean, this thimerosal is something that is included in these vaccinations, and people have said it links to autism. But he wrote an article about this on Salon.com, and they withdrew it.
I would have to say, after hearing him speak, he doesn't sound like a kook, as you said. Yeah. You know, he really seems to have done his homework, and putting the burden on parents in having to prove that there is a religious reason for their exemption. I mean, that's basically asking the state to verify how much you believe in your faith. It's really crossing a line. And then he says, put that in the context of what he believes is a tremendous amount of corruption within the CDC.
Were there a lot of people there? I mean, how was he received?
There was not a lot of press there. He criticized the press quite extensively for not covering basically this side of the story enough. So I'm actually very glad we have a chance to just give his voice a chance to be heard. You don't have to agree with it. I'm having my daughter vaccinated. You know, he said he's had his children vaccinated. But it is the idea that you don't hear this argument a lot.
He doesn't sound like a kook, but he does sound like a hypocrite. Here he is advocating in a public forum for people not to get their kids vaccinated, yet he himself had his own kids vaccinated.
And I asked him, I said, you know, I have a daughter, what am I supposed to do? And you're telling us these vaccines are scary. He says, basically, ask for vaccines without thimerosal. That's the suggestion he's making. So I wouldn't necessarily call him a hypocrite, because he does openly go out there and say, my kids have been vaccinated, but we need to highlight the corruption that exists within the CDC.